into it. Let's start streaming. Okay, cool. I think that is the stream up and running. Hello, everybody. Let's have a conversation about the news. The news surrounding Daniel Farke and his potential exit from Leeds United. Now, a lot of people will have read the Daily Mail article and just thought, there's not necessarily much in that. Because specifically, as was noted by Freefalling, he thinks it's just paper talk. They wouldn't do or say something like this 48 hours after we've been promoted. I heard many things about many bits of the situation that I will get into in a few minutes' time. We'll have a quick skim over the article and a little bit of a conversation about the specifics and everything. Also, just a note, I finally got my Creator Cup merch. I'm enjoying the Yorkshire Roses shirt. I should show it off. Ooh, it's very nice. Go and get your own at the website down below. But having a quick skim of the article, because I've not read this yet, I basically saw the headline and was like, cool, I'm going to start talking to many, many people. So that's where I've gotten my information from. So I'm going to give this a very, very quick present, and we're going to go over that first, and then I will get into what I know. Also, check out Match Bingo. I've got a link down below. But that's not the important thing right now. There we go. So I'm going to speed read this, if that's okay with you guys, because I haven't seen it yet. I also hate the way the Daily Mail website works. Leeds United considering making a stunning managerial change. Understand that Ellen Road bosses harbour reservations that the former Norwich City boss is the man to ensure what is viewed as top flight survival. Very interesting. Also what I've heard. No final decision made. This makes sense. It's up in the air. It's a conversation. But this says that they're leaning one direction rather than the other, and that is something that I found out from the people that I've been talking to as well. There's an awareness that it could backfire with the club supporters, but other candidates are being examined ahead of what is a pivotal moment for the club. Arguably most successful manager in the history of the Championship. I would say the same. He's done very, very well. But in the Premier League wasn't great. What else is there here? Unlikely to pull the trigger unless they have a replacement lined up. There's a conversation on that coming up as well, from what I've heard. And it's far from a foregone conclusion. Should they head down that route, and should a potential replacement get off to a poor start, the atmosphere could plummet. This is one of my concerns with this decision. If he goes and it doesn't work, they're going to look so stupid. But here we are. Accounts are evaluated over a 3-year period, etc., etc. PSR. Names such as Mourinho have been previously linked to the job, although there's a keenness to find a lesser-known name should bosses land on making a change following the success of Iraola at Bournemouth. Indeed, ahead of appointing Farke, Leeds were blocked by Vallecano after making an approach for Iraola, which made sense because Vallecano needed him at that point. So now we're going to get into the bits that I am aware of, the story surrounding it, and the bits and bobs and news and stuff that I have heard from multiple people in this entire thing. So, first up, the point at which I heard this conversation was even happening was last summer, where I was chatting to someone who knows people at the club who noted that there were some pretty big concerns internally, but there wasn't a big swing to go from he's in to he's out. There was a little bit of I don't know if this is quite right, but there wasn't a significant get him out faction. But as time went on, that became a little bit of a split in the boardroom because international breaks and things like that caused issues. We weren't performing to our highest possible standard, and we were slipping and we were slipping and we were slipping. And that led to, as far as I've heard, a fracture, which isn't really what you want in a boardroom for a club that is pushing for promotion, especially when everyone's sort of being like, yeah, let's get behind the manager, everything's fine. Not great. From this point, sorry, I'm looking down at my notes, but I can't show you my notes because it contains things I'm not actually allowed to talk about. This was followed by, between the international breaks and Christmas, there was a little bit of a Red Bull drift against Daniel Farke. The way that I've heard it, and this isn't the way that it necessarily is, but I've heard it from several people, is that Red Bull were seeing it as they weren't necessarily going to trust him with the budget it would take to keep Leeds United in the Premier League, which is a biggie. Because, let's be honest, if the main sponsor in addition to now a part of the ownership group, are not backing your manager and are saying this is maybe not 100% great, then that is where you get some significant issues and you get things starting to slip and they start to slide. And in addition to that, there was reportedly a little bit of a swing away from him at Christmas. Christmas, I will have a quick look at our fixtures from around that period just to make sure that I'm getting everything 100% right. Was an odd stage of the season for us. 1-1 draw against Preston did not feel great. Everyone knows that. And then we went on a little bit of a winning run. We beat Oxford, we beat Stoke, we beat Derby, but those were teams we were expecting to beat. And then 1-1 against Blackburn, and then 3-3 against Hull. And at this point, the swing away continues to happen, and we're getting into January. And from what I've heard within the boardroom, the pro-Farke faction started to either drift away or soften in their stances, whereas the anti-Farke faction stayed basically where they were. So the balance of conversation was shifting a little bit away from it, which makes things difficult. Following on from that, as we saw in January, the club wouldn't sanction the moves that he was looking at. So various players that he was considering ended up not going through. This is where I get to talk about another little fun conversation that I had. If anyone saw the stream that I did yesterday with me, Andrea, Joe Wainman, who else was on there? There was also Matt, Callum, and there was a sixth person, but it's not coming to mind. Paul, I think, from Leeds Therapy. I mentioned that I'd gotten a message from a journalist from somewhere else asking, is this move basically confirmed? And the response that I've gotten in a deeper conversation with that person is that they are a Russian journalist who are keeping an eye on Krasnodar. And they asked me if the Spurtjan move was still potentially happening because he heard about a lot of interest from Leeds United, but we ended up not making a bid. And from what he was aware, the vast majority of the interest coming from us was coming from Daniel Farke. Which now you're starting to add 2 and 2 together. What's in my hair doing that? I don't know. But you start adding 2 and 2 together and you start making 4, and the 4 specifically looks like Leeds inquired because the scouting team do that. The manager had a look, and then it was escalated to board level, and they said, no, we're not going to make that bid. And everything's starting to come together around the Spurtjan thing, which is why I didn't do a video on it yesterday, because I wanted to do a deeper dive and sort of make sure that everything was solid. And it turns out everything was solid, leading to a story that was Daniel Farke potentially not having a job, rather than Spurtjan's coming to Leeds United. And to be clear, Daniel Farke did also say this in the promotion party, in the after drinks. He said this in the sort of interview that he was having, where he was like, yeah, it would have been nice to strengthen in January, but the ownership decided it wasn't possible. I don't know the specific quote, but it was something along those lines. And to me, when he said that, that felt like a bit of a jab. That felt like what exactly are you going to do? I've gotten this team promoted, so the fans are behind me now. Which feels like that might have been a mistake for him now, because we already know that there were some strenuous relationships behind the scenes that could sort of deepen that problem. And then you add to that, there's some reported internal strife within the club from various people that have been having natters with, including a big old split between a sort of in-group and an out-group, and everyone's been having this conversation anyway. And that's happening at a coaching level, as far as I'm aware, as well, which makes things even more complicated. All of this is alleged according to various sources, to be completely clear with you. Like, this isn't me having done the personal sort of, like, talking to members of staff at the club, but I know that the people that I'm talking to are talking to very specific individuals, so I don't want to sort of, like, out people. And yeah, so you've got that reported internal strife going on, you've got the unwillingness to spend money going on, and you've got the concerns over performance last season going on, and the ongoing conversation that happens with fans all the time anyway, because of course it happens with fans all the time anyway, because that's what we're like, combined with the idea that if we don't stay in the Premier League, we're in trouble. That's an issue. And that makes me think that this is fairly solid and there is something behind it. And in terms of the timing of this thing, I've not gotten a banner for the timing either. I'll do timing and source, because a lot of people have pointed to the source and said it's the Daily Mail, therefore I don't trust it. Sure, fine, that's fair. But the Daily Mail have had several exclusive things with club ownership for an extended period of time. And for Mike Keegan, who is the guy that has this story, to do this story without having any form of confirmation from Parag Marathe, from the 49ers, from a high-up source, would be relationship and business suicide. Him doing that would just split any links that he has with the Leeds United management, and he knows that he is the guy that gets the lead stories now. Which is wise from the 49ers side to have a guy that they go to, and also a situation in which he isn't going to be just making stuff up out of nothing. And you consider the timing of it being shortly after promotion, I feel like it's timed in a way that they can start looking for managers without people starting to blab, because that creates uncontrolled noise. Whereas the Daily Mail only route that they have creates noise that they have control over. Admittedly, like, I am now one of the people making noise, but it's noise that's come from that, rather than noise that's come from various agents of various managers of various groups. In addition to that, it means we can get a proper goodbye against Bristol City. I don't know. I think we have a certain decision by that point, so fans know whether we're saying goodbye or not, which I think is a very, very wise idea. And yeah, in terms of the conversation around replacements, I've heard a little bit around this one too. And the only reason I'm diving into who these folks are, who this folk is because I've had it from multiple people. When I had it from one person, I was like, it's probably bollocks. But this is a really weird conversation going on at the moment. It's the Mourinho conversation. Now, a lot of people will see the name Jose Mourinho and they will say, ooh, nice shiny. I don't think he's going to be a good hire for us regardless, but it needs to be a little bit of discussion around this one right now because the feeling that I've gotten from multiple people who've had conversations with people in the club is that it's heading in a Mourinho-y direction. And I understand why from the 49ers perspective, it makes sense. It's not something I like, but I can see why the club want to do it because he plays a sort of defensive, solid brand of football, and he's a big name. He's a shiny person that will get everyone behind things and all that kind of rubbish. But this clashes very, very weirdly with what I've heard from elsewhere. So I know a person that has some fairly close media links with the Portuguese FA. And what I've heard from there is that they kind of want him for the next World Cup, which is in June and July of 2026. Because I think their thinking behind it is you get Mourinho on board, he's the biggest name Portuguese manager. So that helps you from a branding perspective in the first place because it's the USA, and the bigger your branding is, the more you're setting yourself up commercially for years on end. And that combines with the fact that it's very, 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 very likely to be the last World Cup of Ronaldo. So I think the way they're trying to set that up is by doing a sort of last dance kind of energy thing. How that impacts what we do, I don't know. I feel like it will be very, very difficult for Leeds to get that done if Mourinho is offered the opportunity to do a World Cup. But it's tricky, is the spot that I'm in. So what I've heard from the club and from elsewhere is that Leeds might be looking in a Mourinho direction, but at the same time might be impossible to get him. Why they've released this specific thing right now, I don't know. I would presume to give fans time to say goodbye, if it is a goodbye next week, to test the waters to get an idea of how fans are feeling. I think it would be daft. I think to get rid of a manager that you've just gotten promoted with is a bad decision. And I think that leaves a bit of chaos behind you, and it doesn't present like the most stable of situations. But I also think they're trying to sort of give off this feeling of certainty in a way of saying, we want to make sure that we're up, so we're getting a big name in, and we're going to throw a lot of money behind some signings. And if we are able to do that, and if we're able to stay up, then I think it's an absolutely brilliant move. I would quite like to give Daniel Farke the opportunity, but it depends on the situation that we're in. I'm not super happy with it, but annoying. Meanwhile, I don't know. I don't think it's the right move. I don't think it's a clever move. I don't think it's a good move, but I think it's a move that makes sense for the 49ers to make right now. Unsure is where I'm set. But at the end of the day, that's what I'm thinking. Let me know what you're thinking. We'll have a little bit of a conversation around all of it. I am not going to be able to keep up with all of the chat that has happened because there's been quite a lot of that. But I'm instead going to keep an eye on all of the new chats that come in. So that's good. That's nice. But yeah, I've from multiple directions heard that this is very, very probably a thing at the very least, if not definitely a thing. And I can kind of see it. It's not a place that I'm happy with us being, but I still think this is BS article sat on a desk for months just waiting to post, knowing it'll send people into a frenzy. I'm not in that same spot. The spot I'm in with it is like, let's have a quick skim on the thing that I saw earlier. I'll be 1 second. Yeah, there it is. Mike Keegan, 2 days ago, did a piece on Leeds United, having gone to visit the 49ers in San Francisco in January. The strength of that relationship isn't something that you throw away over a BS nothing article, especially when you put exclusive on it and a bunch of shiny things and you start naming names. I feel like if it was just a BS post, at the very least, Keegan doesn't run it. He hands it over to someone. And to burn that relationship on something that isn't true would be bold, to say the least. Just like it would be bold to watch this stream without liking it. Hey, go do the thing. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm going to run a quick poll in the chat. Would you season? Simple yes or no, and then we'll go for it. I'm in the spot if I wouldn't. I'd let him stick around, but it's fine. What happens. There's nothing that we can do about that. Got to give him a chance to be called second now. That's the spot that I'm feeling at this very moment. I think if someone manages to get the club promoted, he's currently 1 behind our record number of wins. He will be the record number of wins if we win our remaining matches. And if we win our remaining matches, we will be top on goal difference for all-time Leeds United seasons. Most points of all time. Second highest points per game of all time. It'll be ridiculous. And I think if you've done that well, you've got to reward it. You can't just throw it away. I don't know. I don't think it is a common sense move. I'll be honest with you. I think it's tough. I was so happy, but now I'd have changed my mind. The idiots, the 49ers need to back Daniel Farke. Yeah. I think if someone gets you promoted that comfortably, to say, well, you don't get to keep your job, is bad and doesn't help anyone. Bardi got player recruitment right for the most part. I trust them to get manager recruitment right. I think the two are linked. And I feel like if you are putting the two features together, both managerial and transfer recruitment, you need a manager in place that is going to do all of your transfer recruitment. And they've shown that they don't trust that, which is, again, a pain. But and there's this, right? I forgot to mention this. For the club to not shoot this down immediately says that it is at the very least a big consideration. I think the club would have approached this and gone, absolutely not, if there was nothing behind it. But for me, this says that something's rolling in. So like, I would agree, but I feel like there's sprinkles of truth. I don't know. Generally on the fence, I don't think he'll quit in the Premier League, but I can't deny he's earned his chance. Thus, I feel unable to vote. I'm in the spot where I feel he's earned a go. You give him a few matches, half a dozen, very least, then but it's been a no, it's not. It fucking hasn't. Because if you look at the top of the league, we're on 94 points with 2 matches left to go, and we've not won the league. Come on. Let's not say it's been a piss easy league when it has been pushed very hard. Of course, I'll start the season. The chairman loves him. I think the board is very split, and that makes it tough. Please don't bring loyalty into it. It's irrelevant. If Bayern came in for Farke, do you think he stays? No, I don't think he stays. But I also feel like that is the same as if another manager directly approaches us and says, "We'll work for you." Like, I don't know. Need to improve the team for whoever comes in. Can't see which 3 teams we finish above at the minute. Burnley, whoever else comes up, and Wolves are stinking. I don't know. We'll have to find out. No, testing what with the fans. This could be it. Problem is, if Farke stays and doesn't get off to a good start, he'll end up on the bad books. Yeah, I think. Right, the stupid thing from a PR perspective about what they've done in this case is they have opened a door. They've said, look, there's a decision to be made. Whereas previously, we're in a world where there wasn't a decision to be made. We were in a world that was, we don't need to make any choices because we've been promoted and we're going to keep the manager. Now, with this coming from the most consistent source, and even if it's wrong, fine. I wouldn't mind him sticking around. But if they don't get rid of him now, it looks very daft because all you've done is introduce uncertainty. It's annoying, and I don't like it. Nick Hammond's now agreed to join Everton. We knew this one was in the mail. In the mail. But whatever. But we knew that this one was coming. Come on, Pope or someone rubbish the story off. Hope it's not true. This is another thing. If someone like the YEP or Popey or someone like that were to know that this wasn't true, then I think they already tell us this isn't true. Then I think in that instance, they go, cool. It's bollocks. We will say that and we will get a lot of clicks. Because at the end of the day, that's what journalism is now. That's why I spent 15 minutes trying to work out what I was going to title this stream and another 10 minutes doing a thumbnail. That's what journalism and news is now. So I think if Popey and Graham and Barron knew anything against it, they would have said something. But again, if they knew anything for it, they would have said it. So I think they're currently just trying to find information. And at the same time, we've got a hell of a lot of information about the council stuff. So about the expansion of Elland Road. I was just going to do a stream about the Elland Road expansion today. But here we are. Something different. Surely Fortiners will be looking at replacements if Farke doesn't start well next season. I think they already are, to be honest with you. He's had some games at the very least. I'm in the same sort of spot. Wolves will recruit, so will we. We'll be fine. It had a shit shot at the start of both the season with players leaving. He's got Leeds at the top or very near both times. For me, he deserves a chance in the Premier League. That's the same sort of spot I'm in. This is why I think they've gone this early. Because if this does turn out to be true, if this does turn out to be a thing, then you've given them as much time as you can. They've got the time to do the training. They've got the time to do all of the recruitment work rather than just sort of the late stage recruitment work like we had the first time we had Daniel Farke. Don't know. It seems a daft time to announce it 2 games before titles aside and very harsh on Parker. I don't know how to phrase it. I think there's a weird kindness to it. There's a weird sort of, if he does go, this means that the Bristol City match can be a farewell for home fans. Beyond that, I don't know. But yeah, this the very end sentence of this is pretty good. It's going to take some shine off it if they chuck Farker under the open top bus. Yeah. Feels... Right, let's have a look. I'm going to skim what's going on. Not the greatest trip at all, etc., etc. Great decision. Yorkshireman, you've been begging for this from the start. This is where I'm not sure, and on this, I'm not sure. For me, it's a mix of who it's come from, when it's come out, who it's come from has talked to in the past, and many, many other factors. Again, we're in a spot where it could be true, it could be untrue. We don't actually know right now. But I'm leaning more towards true, especially given folks that I've been chatting with. Which is spooky, you know? I don't know if it's clickbait. That's the thing. I think it's at the very least worth the discussion. Because, and this is an interesting thing, I was on a call with someone that I have been talking to around various transfer things in the past and a few little stadium bits. And at that same, like, in that same conversation, we had the chat about the Farker stuff, and he was like, I don't know, I hear that there's a lot going on in the club that says potentially not here anymore. And that is maybe skewing what I'm thinking of it, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't like it at all. I quite like having a manager that takes us up, having the opportunity to take us up. Why's my name not in green? I thought I was a member, and then Wayne became a member. Thank you very much, Wayne. It's because when I changed the tiering on the memberships, rejigged and janked the pricing around and stuff, it meant that everyone that was a 99p member is not a member anymore, which is fair enough. It means YouTube doesn't like automatically make people pay more, but it means that you sort of got to rebuild the base of members and all that kind of stuff. $2.99 for a membership, by the way, where you get a bunch of videos and stuff early, including, in theory, a bunch of transfer things this summer. So if this was a thing that came out in the evening, I would have probably recorded a video on it at about midnight, and I would release it to the public at about 7 a.m. If you're a member, you get that early. That's the kind of vibe. Right, let's have a look. Unless it's a case of making fans more okay with Farke staying by setting in the reality of him leaving. I don't know, because I don't think there is any benefit of... I don't think there'd be any benefit of teeing it up just to not knock it down. I don't know. And yeah, the poll is 77 to 23%. pro keeping Daniel Farke. Matty's popped in a thing. Well, Joe, this title's a little strong. Wouldn't surprise me if you got the boot, but hope Farke stays. But I didn't expect a title like this from you. Excuse me, the title's fine. The title is Farke Exit Shock, because everyone is shocked at the news around the Daniel Farke exit. If I was being anti-Daniel Farke, I would have gone, yay, he's gone. Because that's not where I'm at. That's not where I'll ever be. Because I never particularly like people being sacked. Given the financial backing is not had before in the Premier League and see where we are at Christmas, that would be lovely. But, when there's no drama will be created. Leeds drama cells. We'll get 5 videos out of this. God. It's all cool. Where are we? Get used to it. To say, I'm guessing that's quiet till they tell you what. Till they tell you know what they want you to know. When quite there's a lot of waffle wait till the championship's finished. Normally, yes, but I think Mike Keegan is the name that's scaring me in this conversation. This, I feel like, would get Angus sued, so it does not feel like that is going to be the case of what is happening. I'm going to get to this one before. This is from... Right, okay, so... A few hours ago, a article came out from the Daily Mail saying that Leeds were potentially looking at getting rid of Daniel Farke. In most cases, I would have gone, ignore that, it's nothing, but it's from Mike Keegan, who is the guy that the 49ers invited over to do a profile on them, and tends to be the guy that gets all of the leaks from the 49ers, which to me says, I spent about an hour after that chatting to various people, getting various stories together and assembling it into what looks like it makes sense. And the message that I'm generally getting is that it is probably Daniel Farke being gone. Given what I've heard from multiple people in multiple directions. But I don't know. This was not the small bit of news I caught window from a foreign journalist. The bit of news I caught window from a foreign journalist links in with this. It was around the Edward Spurchan thing. That was a player we were interested in January. And he sent me not an email, a Twitter DM asking, is there any more news on this? Because as far as he was aware, Leeds United were very, very, very interested in getting the move done until all of a sudden there wasn't a bid. And that links in with someone else that I was talking to, and in addition to that, Daniel Farke at the promotion party, when he said that he wasn't financially backed in January. And someone that I was having a little bit of a chat with said that in January, the club didn't want to back him because they weren't sure if they would want him in the Premier League. So everything is sort of pulling together now in a way that says not great for me. What percentage of stuff from the guy turns out correct? The vast majority, to be honest with you. I'm trying to think of anything he's been 100% off on. No, I can't remember anything he's been entirely wrong on. There's been a couple of things where it's like the odd details a bit squiffy, but this is something very, very big. And it's not just come from that guy, it's come from another guy that I very much trust but don't want to name because I don't know if they want me to. So I'm going to not. Thing is whether or not wait until the end of the season before releasing this to the journo. A, so you get a full pre-season. B, so Farke can do a goodbye, is my thinking. I don't know. Incredibly harsh, but there's a job going at Norwich. Yeah, there is a job going at Norwich. I mean, a little bit of a secondary rebuild over there. Give it another stint, see how that goes. Could be interesting. Don't know. Don't know. Anyway, I am going to wrap up my stream there because I am out of new things to say, but I will be back on if I have more new things to say. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. That's always massively appreciated. Helps things to keep on chugging, keep on growing. Become a channel member if you fancy. That's always quite nice. Like the stream as well. That helps it to get pushed out a little bit further. I'm a little bit miffed about this if it turns out to be true. If it turns out to be not true, and I've wasted half an hour, then fuck it. But from everything that I have known and talked with, I'm getting suspicions. And I thought it was worthy of talking about those suspicions. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. I will see you later. Toodaloo.